This could mean the men suffered a horrifying ending. Immediately after the tragedy in 1977, diving at Devil's Table was banned completely, and it remained that way until the ban was lifted in 1978 at the urging of the German Sport Diving Association. It wouldn't be long after this that tragedy would occur again at the now notorious diving site. Around 3 p.m. on July 8, 1979, 35-year-old Ernst and 28-year-old Fritz entered the water near Devil's Table as their wives watched from a boat on the surface. Ernst was an experienced diver who had more than 10 years of diving under his belt, and while Fritz had considerably less experience, he had been diving near Devil's Table before without issue. Both of the men entered the water with about 45 minutes worth of air, but by 4 p.m., neither of them had surfaced. Their wives then contacted the Lake Constance Water Police, who began a search of the shoreline, which turned up nothing. Then later that evening, an underwater search got underway. However, well after darkness had fallen over the Alps, the dive was called off and the plan was to resume the next day. But before that could happen, the district administrator reinstituted the diving ban at Devil's Table that night, likely with the 1977 tragedy in the back of his mind. So unfortunately, no search was conducted the next day, and a specialized team of underwater experts had to be brought in to resume the effort with underwater cameras. More than a week later, the bodies of Ernst and Fritz were located more than 150 feet away from the Devil's Table rock wall at a depth of around 295 feet. When they were brought to the surface, it was discovered that their air tanks were completely empty, meaning the pair had drowned during the dive. How this could have happened became apparent on further inspection of what the men were wearing that day. Despite Ernst being a much more experienced diver who would have known better, both men were wearing belts filled with upwards of 18 pounds or 8 kilograms of lead to aid in their descent. Diving experts believe this is way more weight than necessary, and the problem was compounded by how they were wearing the belts. Normally, weight belts are worn outside the straps of any other gear a diver might wear, and they're normally fastened around the waist with quick-release buckles. By doing this, if a diver suddenly finds themselves dropping too quickly or too far, they can undo the buckle and allow the weight belt to fall right off. However, Ernst and Fritz wore their weight belts underneath the rest of their equipment, and neither were fastened with quick-release buckles. This could mean the men suffered a horrifying ending. The dive suits that divers wear are positively buoyant. This makes it easy to float. However, the equipment they wear adds some weight already. Then as they descend with the pressure at depth, this reduces the buoyancy of the dive suit. This means that if they went too deep without realizing it, they could have made themselves negatively buoyant, causing them to begin to sink if they weren't actively swimming upward. Without the ability to release their weight, this could have easily led to a rapid, uncontrolled descent to the bottom. And if they were conscious for this, they would have known the entire time where they were going without any way to prevent it from happening.